Are we going to be able to play PS2 games on the 40GB model PS3 in the near future? I have no idea. But I hope this video can clear up some rumors or some ideas on why some people believe that that will never happen. Most people who say this have backwards compatibility, so they don't really care. They just want people to shut up about it. For people like me who sold their PS2 and most of their games to get a PlayStation 3, this is kind of a big deal because there are some places out there who are selling their games that we've loved to play and we paid $20 or $30 for $5-6, and we'd like to get them back. So here are some of the reasons why, or some people believe, that PS2 backwards compatibility won't come to the 40GB model, and why I believe those reasons are a bunch of malarkey. First one they believe in is the fact that it does not have the power to software emulate PS2 games. This has widely been disproved. I'm just going to mention it for sheer sake of mentioning it. The 80GB model used complete software emulation. It did not have the emotion chip like the 60GB model did to play its PS2 games, which that drove up cost, and it was later scrapped in later releases. There's only, I don't know, I think it was only 2 runs of the 60GB PS3 that actually has the emotion chip in it. I don't know, don't quote me on that, I'm not entirely sure, but the 80GB model used complete software emulation, which right there proved that it is possible, because Sony has done it, to software emulate a PlayStation 2 on a PlayStation 3. Now the rule of thumb when it comes to emulation is that the main system that is emulating the system needs to be at least twice as powerful as the system it's trying to emulate. And the PS3 is far from twice as powerful. It has the capability, the software, the hardware capability of playing PS2 games. That's the first one result. The second one had to do with, I read this one recently, they stated that the 80GB and the 60GB models had specially modified lasers that had read both red and blue laser discs. That is completely not true. All the lasers on all PS3s are the same. They're all Blu-ray lasers. Now, the reason for this argument was they were saying that because of the laser difference, it couldn't read the PS2 discs. I've already disproven this by just sticking a PS2 game one of my games that I actually still own, into my PS3 that does not play PS2 games, and it recognized the disc. It pops on screen and it says it's a PS2 format disc. It doesn't say unrecognized data or unsupported format or anything like that. It actually reads it. Now, for it to say that, it had to have read the disc, read the contents on the disc, realized that it is a PS2 game, and went to look for software to play it, and could not find it. That right there is the key thing. It cannot find software in order to play it. Another reason to disprove this is if you take any PS2 game and pop it in your DVD drive on your computer, any brand DVD drive, doesn't really matter, it will read that disc. All it needs is the software or an emulator in order to read or to use the items on that disc. That's 2 reasons that have been disproved why people think that the PS3 40GB model will not have PS2 backwards compatibility. The third reason is that it just wasn't possible to send the emulation via a firmware update. Like I said, this one I can't argue because I don't know much about the PS3 firmware updates, how their architecture is, how they work. All I know is I hit the update button every once in a while and I get a firmware update. Whoop-de-doo. Personally, I think since it's just software, you could send anything via a firmware update. So personally, I think it's entirely possible for them to package in some way, shape, and form the software emulation that was used on the 80 gigabyte model as a firmware update and send it out to all PS3s who need it. Or make it an option. Or don't even send it as a firmware update. Send it as like maybe a $5 download on the PlayStation Network for 40 or other incompatible models. They've already done this with the ability to play games that required a hard drive. Games like Final Fantasy XI and Resident Evil Outbreak. They have sent the PS2 update, software update, via a download on the PlayStation Network. So I don't see why they don't do that. I mean, I would be happy to pay $5-6 for that, or $10 to get PS2 backwards compatibility, because instead of paying $60 or $70 for a used PS2 and then $4 or $5 for the games, I can just spend $10, get the firmware update, and then spend $4 or $5 on the games that I want. It's cheaper and it's more convenient. As how possible this is, I have no idea. So, you know, I hope this wraps up a couple questions that people have had. Oh, another thing before I forget. The hard drive has nothing to do with the software or hardware that is on the PS3. The hard drive there is merely for the user interface and storing content. That is it. That's why they give you the ability to swap those things out. Okay? This is the Pablo. Thanks for listening to my rant. Look forward for my next video. I have no idea what it's going to be. Bye.